Next on stage, studying medical neuroscience, please welcome Saara Mansoor.
Hello, everyone. I want you all to take a moment and imagine an intense football game. Athlete A and Athlete B get in on an intense clash. Athlete A gets tackled and receives multiple seemingly harmless head injuries. A couple years later, though, he develops several complications like cognitive impairment, mood and behavioral disorders, speech problems, and suicidal ideation. A few years later, he unfortunately passes away. His family donates his brain to the researchers at the National Institute of Health who diagnose him with chronic traumatic encephalopathy. This is a disease that usually results after multiple head injuries. Some of you may know who I'm talking about. This is the story of Junior Seau. He played in the NFL for the Chargers for 20 years, and he died at the age of 43. Now let's talk about Athlete B. He also played in the NFL for over 20 years and received several head injuries. However, he did not experience any complications following those head injuries. Now, the obvious question that you may be wondering about is, why did these two players have such contrasting outcomes? That is the focus of my research. Since head injuries are a stressful event, I decided to look at cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that is normally produced in our bodies following stress. However, I found a fascinating new role for this hormone. I discovered in a series of rodent experiments that animals that were resilient to the effects of head injuries had significantly higher levels of this hormone inside their bodies. This means that we may now be able to predict who is susceptible to the effects of head injuries. I took it a step further and tried to prevent these complications following head injuries. In my next series of experiments, I tried to artificially raise the levels of these hormones inside the animals' bodies. I found that animals that were treated using this hormone were significantly less likely to experience complications following these head injuries. So, what does this mean for all of us? This means that much like Superman, we may now have a super drug that we can use to predict who is at risk for developing complications following head injuries, and we may be able to now improve the lives of millions of people who sustain this type of injury worldwide. Thank you very much.